Welcome to Fans First, a sports podcast where your voice matters most. Hosted by Hall of Fame sportscaster Jim Powell. This is the show that puts fans at the heart of the conversation. Whether you're cheering in the stands, screaming at the TV, or debating with friends about the latest trades, Fans First is here to amplify your thoughts, your insights, and your love for the game.
Hello and welcome to Fans First, a sports podcast. I'm your host, Jim Powell, and I'm joined by my co-host, a frequent guest on the show, Tyler Flowers, who has brought with him a special guest to the zone. Tyler?
Chris Sale, welcome to the show, buddy. Thanks for coming with us.
Absolutely. I had to jump on this.
Well, we'll set the tone. Congrats from everybody, especially easy for me, former catcher, and within your organization on the Cy Young Triple Crown. Hasn't been done in a little while, so big congrats on doing that, man. That was an awesome season to watch.
I appreciate it, man. It was a fun year. We obviously as a team had our ups and downs, and but as a whole, it was a fun year. Everyone grinded till the end, and obviously didn't end the way we wanted to, but like people say, the cliche is there's only one happy team at the end of every season. So, hopefully we take that into the off season and use it for some fuel.
So true. As a former player, obviously, and still working in the organization, Jim being involved with the organization for a long time, everyone gets so invested. And I personally thought this season it was a huge success, just how we overcame so many obstacles and injuries. We found guys to fill in. We brought guys up. I viewed it as a really big success up and down the organization, just what we're doing at the lower levels up to AA, AAA, to have guys available that can fill in. That we got into the postseason missing 3 All-Stars, an MVP, and somehow we still gave ourselves a chance to advance further in the postseason. I thought that was pretty impressive. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I would definitely second that. I think it shows the resilience of the organization, right? I think another thing too is you got to give guys the credit as well. Everybody that came in. I mean, you look at someone like Laureano, for instance, man. I mean, you're talking about a guy that just really kind of got released by Cleveland. He came over, he was hitting under 200. And then, basically he was kind of a platoon player. And then, I mean, he worked his butt off. And I mean, you look at what he did since, putting that Braves uniform on. I mean, he basically demanded through play, he was a starter. And I mean, put himself in an unbelievable position going into the offseason. I know we non-tendered him. It might be more of a money move, but I mean, a team should give him a really good look, because I mean, what he did this year was crazy. Young guys, Bellenbach coming up. You talk about a guy that was just pulled up. We needed a starter, and then we're relying on this guy for some big time innings. Same thing with Holmesy. So I think again, it says a lot about what the environment is in the organization, but you got to give credit to these guys coming up and just posting. I mean, we don't get there without them. And another thing too is, the injuries are obviously were apparent, and those were on the forefront. But you got guys that were playing, not at 100% also, that, might not have been out there. So, again, yeah, I mean, you're talking about missing the key guys in the middle of our lineup, the MVP from, the previous year. And to be able to still kind of get into the playoffs and do what we did was impressive.
Yeah, some of the moves we made were perfect. Kind of what we did the World Series year, picking up a few guys via trade, having some guys come up and step up, and kind of the perfect storm. This season, for me at least, not being there day in, day out, it felt like we had a chance of something like that, like picking up like a Urshela to fill in for Riley at third. Like that's hard to find someone that good. That quickly to jump in there and fill in. And then some more younger guys filling in middle infield and outfield, obviously. And then, of course, the starting pitching and a couple of relievers. It was really impressive. I'm sure you and Charlie had a lot to do with helping those younger guys stay calm in the moment, big league environment. They're not used to it. Hey, it's not that much different. You're still throwing a baseball, execute pitches. How much conversations did you guys have with some of the younger guys that came up to try to help calm them down and keep them in their own realm?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of our role was, you look at like what last year was for this team. And obviously, this is my first year here, but the reason that they were successful was the offense. I mean, it was home runs. It was 8-9 runs a game. And this year it just seemed, like we would go on like, a 4 or 5 game stretch where it was dominant again. And then I just don't think the consistency that the offense was there still. The numbers were there, but it just seemed like the consistency. So it was really kind of on the staff. And I mean, you look at what we did as a pitching staff as a whole throughout the entire year. Again, we got a big blow with Strider going down. And again, like you look at our starting staff, there was a lot of extra days. There was a lot of times there was a 6-man in that rotation, giving us a blow when we needed it. So again, I want to give a lot of credit to the guys in the bullpen. I mean, you look at what they were picking up more innings. They were throwing in much more, leverage situations because we didn't have a lot of these like 12-3 games. So yeah, and then I just felt like we had a really good group. I mean, going out the stretch was like going to the golf course almost. Guys we were all excited. We all enjoyed hanging out with each other. We liked being around each other. Let's say there was like, on a given day, more so after an off day, there's like, 6 bullpens. Guys want to, throw some touch and feels. But, let's just say there was like 2 or 3 bullpens on a day. There's like 8 guys in the bullpen, right? Watching guys throw. Guys are, working on things. And it just seemed more of like kind of like a group effort. I'd be out there throwing a bullpen. There'd be 2 other guys behind me. And next thing you know, we got 6-7 guys out there just kind of hanging out and just baseball talk. Another really cool thing that we did this year, or the Braves did for us, was team breakfast, right? Unless we had a day game, we always had team breakfast at like in one of the banquet rooms or ballrooms at the hotel. And I just noticed there was a lot of times it was, guys going down there, we're eating breakfast, and next thing you know, well, breakfast is come and gone. We're still just kind of hanging out around there, talking shop. And so it was just a really good group this year.
I've always felt like, I started out my career with the Braves coming up and then traded to the White Sox where you and I met and then came back to the Braves. But like character makeup of people in this organization is a priority. I think what you're just talking about is a huge reflection of the organization's philosophy. And like it's quality people that can happen to be quality baseball players as well. And I think that's why we've been so successful for such a long period, is that we prioritize that, not just the stats on the back. We want those to be good, but we also want good people and creating a good environment. And it sounds like you were just reiterating the same points, like things like that. People outside of the game that haven't played or don't get to travel with us, they don't get to see a lot of those things. But those are big things. Like you got to hang out with this guy, for 240 days of the year, spring training and everything included. If you don't like someone, you don't get along with them, like it makes it there's some friction that can be created. And I think the way the Braves organization goes about it, character first, your abilities and everything, it's somewhat secondary, but we got to have a good environment for everyone for that long period, coaching staff included. We have great coaching staff. We lost a few great ones this offseason, unfortunately, but I know a couple of the guys that are coming in, I think they're going to fit in perfectly fine. But I've really always enjoyed that about the Braves organization. It's a character first, and then we're going to win. And part of that is because we acquire the great character and personalities that can blend well together.
Well, to that point, I think you can look at the success we had this year, and point to that, right? Like when we would go through a rough time, right? I'm not pointing any fingers. I'm just saying, generally speaking, as a team, that can separate some guys, right? And at certain points in the season, you can form these little, there's a 5-person click over here, or, there's, 3 pitchers over here, 4 position players here. And to that point of guys and character, it almost seemed like the harder times we were in, the more we stayed together. And there were a couple times throughout the year, it was like, all right, boys, like, we're getting together. Like, we're flying to this city. We're going to get in early. We're all getting together. We're going and doing something. And whether it was either just hanging out on a flight, hopping on, playing video games, or calling together like a team meeting before a game or something like that, it just seemed like no matter what was thrown at us, we were prepared for it and knew how to deal with it in the right way. And there was no separation. No matter what happened, that it almost seemed like that bond got stronger. And that's, to your point, again, that talks a lot about the character of the guys in the clubhouse and what the organization's aim is for the guys they want.
For Chris, it was your first year getting a chance to pitch on a team that is run by Brian Snitker. What are your thoughts on, a full season with Brian Snitker? What was that like? You've had a lot of managers. I'd be interested to see what you think about Snit and compare him to other managers you played for.
Again, I mean, you want to talk about starting from the top. He's as good as anybody I've ever been around. And obviously I didn't have a chance to be around, Bobby Cox a whole lot. He came in the clubhouse this year. It was awesome to see him. But, I think he took a lot from him. I think he learned a lot from him as a manager and how he went about his business. He's very laid back. There's virtually no panic at all with Snit. When you're talking about something as stressful as a baseball season, right? And some of the little things that go on. I mean, think about the stuff he had to deal with, man. I mean, the injuries, the roster turnover, heck, who's what the lineup's going to look like that day? Who's starting the next day? Just managing things. He had this calmness about him. He had this kind of laid back demeanor where, if the house is on fire and people are panicking, it just makes everything just more intense. It makes things, you get tighter. And no matter what the situation was, it just seemed like he was always calm, cool, and collected, which just kind of sent a wave through the clubhouse. Like, okay, well, ultimately his job is on the line. He's the guy that's taking the brunt of it. If we don't play good, I mean, we can go up and down, but like, managers get fired for players not playing well. And he just had this calmness about him where it was like, hey man, we're going to be all right. Just keep doing what you're doing, because that was another thing too, that the work never stopped. It didn't matter if we lost 5 games in a row. Guys were doing their stuff in the weight room. Pitchers are taking care of their arms. Our infielders were out there every single day doing fielding work and things like that. So, his demeanor kind of set the tone for the clubhouse. And again, I think that's another big reason why we were able to overcome these obstacles this year.
I think Snit is one of those rare breeds still that remembers how difficult the game is. I think a lot of coaches, managers over the course of time, start to demand perfection and they quickly forget. I even find myself sometimes watching the games, like, how are you missing that first pitch breaking ball front door? Like, you got to pull the trigger on that. You forget how hard this freaking game is, which is, it's shocking, but Snit I felt like he always did a great job of remembering that this is a really hard game. If everybody could do it, everybody would be here. This is the group we have. They've stuck it through. They're mentally tough enough. He tries to just stay positive and just reinforce everything. And I think that's a big reflection on our organization and our team for the last, whatever it's been for him now, 7 years, 8 years.
Yeah, and he's had a hell of a run too. And to your point of this game being tough, it's like, everybody wants to do well. And a lot of times you're watching these games on TV and there's guys that make it look easy, right? You're watching the highlights on MLB Network or on ESPN or whatever. And you're like, these guys are making it look easy. And even some of these routine plays, it just like, that's not normal, but they make it look normal. And for sure, I think he understands, like, okay, like, these players are not being, horse crap. I don't want to say the real word, but they're not outworking. They're not getting these results because they're being lazy or whatever. So I think he's definitely the manager that's going to put his arm around you more than kind of lay into you, because he understands, like, okay, these are all men. They understand what happened. They didn't try to do it, and the preparation is still there. I think if he would have seen some lack in preparation, then there's time to kind of get on guys. But the preparation was there. The intensity was always there. And, we never backed down.
Chris, one of the biggest things for you winning the Cy Young was your ability to stay healthy this year. You've had way more than your fair share of injuries over the course of your career, and yet have persevered through with a Hall of Fame level for a long time. How were you able to stay more healthy this year to be able to make that many starts and post those kind of stats?
So I would say the first thing was probably my offseason. I think the offseason is more important than a lot of people think. Finishing the year last year, finishing 23 healthy, right? Going into the offseason, having made, and I had a probably 2 or 3 start stretch towards the end of last year, where I was gaining some momentum. And going into the offseason with everything healthy, not having to worry about this or that, or not rehabbing anything, I was able to start sooner and get more bulk in. I knew I needed to start my offseason sooner, and I knew I needed to throw more. And then coming into spring training was awesome, because I felt like I was more prepared going into this spring training than I had been in quite some time. And just working with some different people, having some different looks, trying to utilize different pitches, and just what I'm using it, where I'm using it, how I'm using it, and not being afraid to do things that I haven't typically done in the past. Throwing a few more changeups this year. I think throwing changeups to lefties, 2 seamers into righties, not being afraid to just kind of keep hammering the slider. So I think there was a lot that went into it. And again, I can't stress enough what, I said it the other day. I think I only gave up 1 earned run this year. I had multiple home runs robbed that would have, tacked on 2 or 3 runs in a couple starts. Infielders making diving plays, even just keeping balls in the infield, guys not being able to take the extra base. Again, like I talked about my bullpen, I mean, once I handed the ball to them, I just kicked my feet up. I know the game's over. And then, offensively, I felt like I was the guy this year. It seems like you got the day game guy, you got the bad weather guy. I felt like I was the run support guy. I mean, it's just, I'd go out there, I'd pitch 2-3 innings, and I'd look up, and I'd have 5 runs of support on the board. So a lot goes into it, and again, I can't put enough emphasis on, Sal, who was an unbelievable game player. He was like having another pitching coach there. With Travis and Murph and Trumpy. Trumpy got me out of the gate this year with my first few starts. So, those guys were working their butts off behind the plate for me, and it wasn't always easy. I know some of the intricacies of the game, some people might not pick up, but there's a couple of days I got sliders going left, and that's not good. So they're having to navigate me not having 1 or 2 pitches or command of my fastball. I feel like I had 2 or 3 starts in a row where my fastball was it was so far around the zone, and I could only throw strikes with my off-speed pitch. And they're figuring out a way to make that work while still throwing fastball. So again, I can't thank my guys enough that I had in my corner this year.
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier. As a guy that still has the most innings caught from Chris Sale,
yeah,
I felt like a big part of your success, obviously the work you put in to get healthy, the work you put in the offseason, getting ready in spring training, that was obviously a huge factor of it. But a lot of what I kind of saw transpire over the course of the season versus maybe more so your time in Boston was utilizing that changeup a lot more often, and especially to both sides, lefties and righties, which that was something we did early on. I don't even know if you know this, but Coop in Chicago, he used to give me a quota. You can only use 10 sliders today, so use them when you deem appropriate, but you're only going to use 10 from Chris Sale. And I'm like, well, how the heck am I going to do this? And that's why we were so change-up heavy. But your change-up is a weapon with your arm slot and the crossfire and everything. It comes out looking the exact same, and it's just a dead fish minus 10 miles an hour. And again, I've always thought this, like when you're facing Chris Sale, you got one or two approaches. You can wait him out, try to get his pitch count up, or you got to attack first pitch. You got to be ready to go right out of the gate. And I'm sure, Chris, you remember this. We had that game against Burley where both teams kind of took the same approach. It was like a 2-hour game, right? It was like 2-1 via a couple errors. But they both were like 85, 90 pitches, complete games on both sides of the ball. So I've always thought about that. Like, you got to approach it, you got to bang them, or you got to wait them out. If you wait them out, you might be in trouble, and you might just start punching out everybody. If you try to bang him, it's going to be a complete game because you better square up a few because he's not going to give up too many mistakes. But again, back to my point, I thought your changeup utilization this season probably really helped you a lot to keep the guys a little more off balance instead of looking straight to seam or slider. Now all of a sudden there's that fourth dimension with the depth, utilizing that changeup and the change of speed.
Well, and I think just with my arm health, I was able to kind of get that pitch going a little bit more. It just seemed like I was, over the last few years, I was so slider heavy, and just dealing with some of the things I had to deal with injury wise, my arm so honestly, I just felt like it didn't work this way, like getting my hand out in front. And I feel like throughout as the season got along, it got better because I was throwing it more. It was something that I was paying more attention to. And it was weird. It was almost like I looked at it as a weapon as opposed to in years past. It was just kind of, I always looked at it as my third pitch. I'll throw it, 2-1 to try to steal a strike, or 1-0 just to kind of get them off the heater. This year it was, okay, I'm going to throw this 1-2. I'm going to throw this as a strikeout pitch. I'm going to throw this, shoot, I think I threw one to Otani, and I was like, all right, man, you better
I used to think of it as like your best pitch. I was forced into that a little bit because I could only throw 10 freaking sliders, but I used to think of it as your best pitch. Like, I think we started out a couple games, like first pitch changeup, like Alcides Escobar, the Royals shortstop guy. Remember, he just turned it loose every time, and it's like, we're going first pitch changeup, Chris. Let's go. We could go on his front foot, then we could blow him away and back foot him. But I always thought of that as like one of your best pitches.
I've actually been talking to Coop a lot recently. We've been texting back and forth a lot. And how smart of him not to even bring me in that conversation.
Well, yeah.
The Coop on him right there. And just the catchers, the coaches, all the, Coop knowing like, okay, don't tell Chris. He's not smart enough to figure this out on his own.
It's not going to shake you off. I think you shook me off one time, and that was when we had to retaliate, and you wanted me to set up inside.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was the only time you shook.
Yeah, I only really remember 2 instances of shaking off, and I think one of them was that instance, and the other one was I think I had just given up a homer or a big double that cleared the bait. Something happened.
Victor Martinez.
And he called
one.
And I'm like, I'm throwing a fastball, and I'm going to try to throw this thing through the concourse.
Was it? I can't remember. Was it Victor Martinez or was it Prince Fielder?
Honestly,
I think he ended up drilling him.
I remember something happening and off speed being called, and me just going, nope, I need to throw a heater, and I need to get this frustration out, and I'm going to try this thing through a literal brick wall.
I think it was Prince Fielder. And you threw it about 102 and accidentally squared him up in the front shoulder. I think that one rings a bell to me.
Might have been.
Definitely, it wasn't on purpose. It was just fire the crap out of it.
I've had maybe a handful of instances where that's happened. So sometimes this motor was running a little hot and boil over a little bit.
Yeah. And then I'll walk out there and you're like, get back, go. Go away.
Well, honestly, one of my all-time favorite mound visits was from you. I remember, because when I was young, again, I my motor ran a little hot, and my emotions could get the best of me, right? And I'd be out there just literally steaming out of my ears. And I had this tendency where when things started going wrong, or if I gave up a home run, or walked the lefty, I would literally just like start screaming at myself on the mound, and then I'm just throwing hate fastballs, everything. I'm trying to throw fastballs 150 miles an hour. I'm trying to snap off breaking balls. And I remember Flo comes out there, and I just uncork this fastball, probably hit the freaking backstop. I don't know. And he just comes out there, and he's just like, hey, you know how like when things aren't going your way, you start getting pissed off? Like, yeah. And he goes, you ever notice how like you just start throwing stuff everywhere? I'm like, yeah. He goes, have you ever noticed that doesn't work? I was like, yeah, I guess. He's like, all right, let's calm it down. Let's get back to work. And I was like, all right. And I just remember laughing after that game, just being like, man, if that wasn't the most honest thing someone's ever told me, like, you're out here acting like an idiot. It doesn't work. Stop that. Let's get back to pitching.
I feel like I say the same thing to my kids now. Like, hey, you're getting all angry. You swing and miss. Like, how's that working out for you? Well, I swung and missed again. I'm like, no crap. Stop doing that.
Well, I'm glad to your 12-year-old. So
I got one quick story. It has nothing to do with Chris Sale, but he'll appreciate it. I don't know if we'll keep it on here or not, but I just got to share it. So John Danks, he got torn up like his last home start, right? And I was like, hey, what can I do next time to help you out? Like, to calm you down, get you going again. He's like, man, honestly, just come out there and tell me a joke. So his next start, we're in Minnesota. It's the bottom of the first. We've given up 5 runs. We got 2 guys on base and 1 out. So I walk out to talk to him. I go, hey, is it too early to tell you a joke? He ended up going 7 innings. Those were the only 5 runs we gave up, but just Chris talking about that just made me think of that interaction with Danksy. And just same thing, just like brutally honest. Like, hey, is it too early to tell you a joke? I know it's the first inning, we only have 1 out, and we've given up 5, but that ended up working out.
John Danks is absolutely all time too. And it's like, it's kind of the funny thing about baseball and sports is like, sometimes it's something so random to just get you back on track, and even sometimes it's like superstitions. It's like, if I eat the red gumball instead of the blue gumball, I'm going to get 2 today. So whatever it is, just keep doing it.
Well, you're talking about throwing 102 miles an hour. How about the guy that announced your Cy Young Award? I mean, Greg Maddux, the ultimate slice and dice guy, spot the ball, change the speeds. I mean, a much different pitcher than you are and most pitchers are. How excited were you to see Greg Maddux there talking about you and Cy Young?
Well, I was excited for a couple of reasons. Obviously, I mean, that guy's a baseball legend, but specifically, in Atlanta, I mean, you talk about the Atlanta Braves, his name comes up as much, if not more, than anybody. The win totals, the World Series, the staff he was a part of, the trophy, but his trophy case, I mean, he probably has a guest house for him. It's and I guess, and reason number 2 was, selfishly a little bit, I was, when I'm sitting there, I mean, I'm in my basement. I wanted to be alone. I mean, I'm dripping sweat. I was dripping sweat during that interview. I had a pool of sweat in my belly button, my armpits. I mean, it was disgusting. And because I'm nervous. I mean, you got Zach Wheeler, who, I mean, pound for pound, I mean, you're talking about the best pitcher in the league, right? I mean, he was the best pitcher. He's the best pitcher in Major League Baseball. And then with Paul Skeens, I mean, I don't know if there's a more exciting pitcher. I mean, you're talking about must-watch TV. I mean, he's the guy. And then you got me. I was just, they had really compelling cases for the Cy Young Award as well. I see Greg Maddux, I'm like, there's no way he's going to say someone else's name. So when I saw him, I was like, okay, all right, calm down, Chris. I think you're good. I think you're good. So a lot of reasons went into it, but that was definitely one of them.
That's awesome.
It was kind of full circle too, because he was obviously a Cy Young Award winner, played for Atlanta. PV was on the network, as one of the hosts of that show. And I mean, talk about just kind of the beauty of the game of baseball, right? Peeve had Maddux to look up to early in his career. Cy Young Award winner, future Cy Young Award winner, and then I go to Chicago, and then I got PV, who I looked up to, early in my career, a Cy Young winner with another soon to be, or I guess not soon to be, 15 years later, Cy Young Award winner. But it was just kind of cool to see, that whole interaction, with him and Jake and myself and the Atlanta ties. It was a special night for me, for sure.
First Cy Young for the Braves since Tom Glavine did it. That's another pretty good person to have company with.
Oh yeah, I mean, you walk down the hallway in that clubhouse, and they have, all the MVP awards. They got all the Cy Young Award winners. Some of the all-time greats up there, what their stats were, all those things. So, it's very humbling, and I said it and I meant it, but I definitely brought that group down a little bit. So I got some more work to do.
Hey, I want to flip the switch on you a little bit, go in a different direction. I want you to show us all what you're wearing right now. Let's see the shirt.
I just got done working out, so this was but I got a story about that too. So at the All-Star game this year, I met the pitching ninja himself. Rob came up, and we were doing our our media day. He came up, introduced himself. And I'm obviously, big fan of his clips and things like that and what he does. I think it's really cool. What he's doing for the game. But he said it. He was like, "You have this thing I call resting pitch face," and I lost out. Like, "Hey man, I need that on a shirt, please." And it was like maybe a week or two later, he had a bunch of shirts sent to Atlanta. He made some for my kids. I don't know if I can send them to school. Well, they're homeschooled, so I can send them to school with them. But it was awesome. But the guys got a kick out of it, and I thought that was a really cool thing.
Show it again, please.
That is awesome.
The resting pitch face. I love it.
It is awesome. I use a different letter when I say it, but that one makes more sense for you.
Yeah.
Hey, if you got any kids, I'm sure we do have kids that are watching this and want to learn some things from Chris Sale, Cy Young Award winner. I mean, you've got you're like a tenured professor now in Major League Baseball for winning that award. Number one, I want to know where you got to put the award. If where how are you going to display it? But number two, if you've got some kids that are watching this that are maybe left-handed and would like to figure out how to be just like Chris Sale, what advice would you give for the young kids?
I would say number one, there's no substitution for hard work. It's not going to come easy, and no one's going to give it to you. You got to work, and you got to be willing to just never give up. You got to be tough. Honestly, you just got to be tough. When things don't go good, use that as motivation to try to be better. When things are going good, they can be the best they've ever been. Try to be better. I like to do a little humble brag right here real quick. I got a phone call outside of my family. This guy was my biggest idol growing up, Randy Johnson. He gave me a call, and I was drooling for 25 minutes straight on that phone. And he gave me some of the best, advice, and just talking about some motivation. He's like, "You're on top of the world right now. You won a Cy Young Award. Try to be better. Try to be better next year." And I mean, what a thing for someone to say. What a perspective to have, right? Where, you're at the top of the mountain, and you got to get higher. No matter what situation you're in, always try to gain ground. Always try to make yourself better. And I just that was so important for me even to hear where, this isn't like, okay, I got the trophy, let's kick your feet up and just coast now. It's like, no. Like, this is the time to find a new gear and get better. And I just thought that was so cool to hear from him, and for him to take the time to say that to me and call me and tell me that. I think I'd be doing a disservice if I didn't share that. And I mean, you're talking about, for me, I mean, I'm not here to start any arguments, but Randy Johnson's the greatest left-handed pitcher to ever walk the planet. And I mean, in terms of sheer dominance, and I really tried to model myself after him on the baseball field, where there was no question he left it all on the field. There's no question he always wanted to win. I mean, there were times he's foaming out of the mouth. He's just, he'd strike out the side. He's screaming at, down to the ground, and he's grunting, and it was everything he had. And he was tough, and I think there's a certain level of that needs to be had now where, again, just go out there, don't give up, never back down. You get pinned in the corner, get excited about it, but find a way to get out of it. As John Danks used to say, anybody can do it on their best day. That's why we're all here. Who are you on your worst day? And try to be the same person every day. And as far as the trophy goes, I don't know, man. I'm not a big person of trying to show things off and stuff like that. It would probably sit in my attic, honestly, and collect some dust. I don't know. I might try to find somewhere, but when you come to my house, I don't want it to look like the shrine of Chris Sale. I want you to come to my house and enjoy yourself. So I don't know. I'm kind of stuck on that.
I think Brianne might have plans for it already. You just don't know about it.
Yeah, well, she's like, you should put this somewhere, and I'm like, it doesn't change.
Might end up with a new end table or something where that trophy's going to sit, I would imagine. I don't think she's going to let you put that one in the attic, buddy.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, Chris, you've come into our house here on Fans First and been a tremendous guest. And it's a great honor to have someone that is just fresh off a Cy Young. Congratulations, richly deserved. Really appreciate your time, your stories, your laughter. You're a great guest, and we'll see if we can rope you back in for another visit down the road.
Absolutely, for sure. I love doing these things, especially with former teammates, and this is always fun for me. So thanks for having me, guys.
Safe to say that Tyler's the greatest catcher that you ever threw to in your entire life.
He was exactly what I needed, exactly when I needed it. And again,
you should have had me at the end of your career, or end of my career. We would have been even better. I actually got really good at receiving the ball back then.
Yeah, there were no catching coaches back then, so you were like kind of pioneering this whole thing on your own.
I just had to make it up.
And I'll be honest, I don't know if I'll ever have a catcher catch as many pitches in my career as you did. I mean, what's the?
I think I have like 80 innings over Sandy.
Okay.
So yeah. Probably not.
Be the next one, and then maybe fast for him, and then AJ. Yeah.
But I mean, you got a long way to go with Murph. Unless you're pitching to 44, I think I got the reins.
Oh, dude, if I'm pitching at 44.
Hey, thanks for coming on, man. We've enjoyed it. Great catching up with you and everything. Reminiscing a little bit. I feel like I could go catch right now, but then I realized my back hurts again, so probably not.
Where I shot him a text, I said, "You got to catch my first bullpen of spring training, right?" He's like, "Yeah, I won't be able to move for a week."
Yeah, no, he's stuck. I can catch the first pitch of the bullpen. That's probably about it.
I like that. I'll hold you to that.
I'm catching 10-year-olds right now. That's hard enough.
Yeah, we'll get you a bucket or a chair back there.
There you go.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. Wow, what a great podcast today. I mean, Chris Sale, awesome. And Tyler Flowers, of course, the perfect guy to draw out a lot of knowledge. Really enjoyed that. Going to look forward to watching and listening to that myself multiple times in the future. But right now it's time for my favorite segment of every Fans First podcast, and that is Get Off My Lawn. Hey, get off my lawn. David Carroll from Chattanooga, Tennessee. David, what's on your mind?
Last spring, I was a very optimistic Braves fan. Well, 7 months later, not such a happy ending. Some internet expert wrote this week that the Braves have the second best roster in MLB, behind only the Dodgers. Even as a lifelong Braves fan, that's a bit of a stretch. It's a good roster of hitters when everybody's healthy and when they're playing up to their potential. Marcell Ozuna was the only one who met that criteria this year. Yeah, the Braves had some banged-up players. So did the Dodgers, maybe to even a larger degree. And so did the Phillies, the Mets, and the Yankees, among others. When you lose frontline hitters and pitchers, you start plugging in replacements and shopping the bargain bins. Sometimes you get lucky. Braves didn't get that lucky in 2024, exposing an alarming lack of depth. Berthie, Strider, Albies, Acuna, Harris, Mentor, and Riley are all out for extended periods, forcing the Braves to use guys like Forrest Wall, J.P. Martinez, Luke Williams, and Luke Jackson. That won't get you very far to October. The brightest prospect on the farm was Nacho Alvarez. With a 100 batting average in the big leagues, shows he needs more time on the grill. Alex Anthopoulos has made some moves to free up some payroll cash, so let's hope he gets a few studs to fill an outfield position, an upgraded shortstop, and a couple of pitching slots, plus some major league caliber depth, so we won't be fielding a AAA team like we did so often this year. 89 wins wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. Make the Braves great again.
Wow, David Carroll, great job on your submission. Your opinions were spot on, so we didn't kick you off our lawn today. We instead let you ring the bell, and deservedly so. Hope you submit something to us again here on Fans First before long. I want to thank everybody for joining us on today's episode of Fans First, a sports podcast, very special edition with Chris Sale and Tyler Flowers. Don't forget to follow us on X, Instagram, and Facebook, and please subscribe to our Fans First YouTube channel. If you like our Fans First content, you can help us by making sure you are subscribed to all of our social networks. And don't forget about our Fans First website. That's the best way to find the archived podcasts that maybe you missed or you just want to revisit, like I'm going to be revisiting today's show in the future. To be included as a guest on an episode, send your voice memo, your video file, or your written memo to jim@fansfirstpodcast.com. Please keep your submissions to no more than about 45 seconds in length. If it goes on a little long, but it's really good, you'll still make the cut. And we want you to be part of our show, so we hope that lots and lots of fans will jump in with their opinions and thoughts on today's episode, future episodes, past episodes, or just things in sports in general. So glad you joined us for today's episode of Fans First, the sports podcast. We look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Stay tuned, stay passionate, and keep celebrating the sport you love. Visit us at fansfirstpodcast.com to explore more. Sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive updates and follow the podcast on social media to join our growing community of sports enthusiasts. Your voice matters to us, so don't hesitate to share your thoughts and connect with fellow fans. See you next time.